Today, we're talking about how to deal with temptations in marriage. And I want to speak about two kinds of temptation in marriage. The first one, I will call it the internal temptations. And the other one, I call it external temptations. And I believe that, well, because most of us have been married for a while, and I think we have survived a bit of the external one, maybe I should start with the internal one. The internal temptations are majorly the temptations that we receive from our spouses due to some careless words and actions that happen in our marriages. You know, they are not intentional. Some are not intentional, but maybe some are. But I see it as not intentional kind of temptations. People just do things because they are angry, or they do things because they are not happy. So those kind of temptations that we face in our homes. And I discover even from the scripture that Jesus faced two kinds of temptation. You know, the one that came from the devil himself, Satan, and the other one came from Peter. He came through Peter, and he also still rebuked it as if it came from the devil, but it was Peter who tried to stop him from fulfilling his purpose. So now we need to really understand that the careless actions or words we use in our marriages, the words we speak and the actions we do, can become a temptation to our spouses. And we find out that, you know, when our spouse react to them, it can become a problem. So in other words, we should watch and pray, as the Bible says. So to watch and pray in this instance is that we watch what we say and we watch what we do, so that we will not become a problem to our spouses. So it is very, very important that we know how to deal with internal temptations. So we have to think before we talk, and we have to plan things before we do it, so we don't become a kind of instrument of temptation to our spouses. So that is under internal temptation. Internal temptations are the things that couples could do to each other, not intentionally, or sometimes intentionally because they are angry. It becomes a temptation to your spouse. So we should pay attention not to allow the enemy to use us to tempt our spouses. That is internal temptations. Now let's look at external temptations. I will be looking at two main temptations for the women and two major temptations for the men externally. Now, if you read in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, we see that, you know, the first temptation happened in the Bible. It happened to the married couple. The first couple that existed were the first people to be tempted. Adam and Eve were married, and the devil came to tempt the wife. In Genesis 3, verse 6, the Bible talks about a tree that was good for food. That tree was pleasant to the eyes, and that tree was there to make one wise. And what I take from all those words is comfort. I see a tree that represented comfort. When you talk of food, food can comfort us. When you talk of something that is pleasant to the eyes, it speaks about something that can comfort us. You know, when you look at a nice thing, it comforts you. And when you talk about something that makes one wise, it still comes under that, because, you know, wisdom can bring you money. It can bring you certain level of comfort. So I picked out two things that women need to watch out for. I told my wife, I said that the way I see it, Adam was not really tempted by that tree, because that tree carried more of that which could tempt a woman, if you read those things. So I figured out that from that temptation, I see that a woman is easily tempted by what can give her comfort and what can give her care, what shows comfort and care. In other words, care speaks about affection. So a woman is easily tempted by her desire for comfort and care, her desire for comfort and affection. Anything that speaks about comfort can easily tempt a natural woman. And that is why that tree appeals so much to Eve, because it was a tree that is good for food, a tree that is pleasant to the eyes. Women like beautiful things, beautiful things. I see my wife appreciate some beautiful things, and I just wonder, what is really this? Very small things that, I will even just trample on them and pass. But to her, it's precious. Anything beautiful, they easily appreciate it. So every woman should watch out for things that speak about comfort and care and affection. Care and affection speaks about, what makes them feel loved. That's why you see, if a man wants to tempt a married woman, he will try to use words. Either he uses his possessions or he uses good words to tempt her. If she doesn't fall for the possession, he drives his X5 and all that. He will use good words, tell her how beautiful she is, try to show her care and affection. That can be a tempting point for a woman. So I figured out that for a woman to overcome temptations easily, the woman must be contented with the possessions of her husband. She must be contented with the possessions of her husband. Whatever her husband possesses, she should be contented with that, because any discontentment with what her husband possesses can open the door for the enemy to tempt her, because a woman naturally loves comfort and loves good things and loves care and affection. So if there is something that your husband is not offering you that he has, that you will desire, it's better to speak to him about it, and come to that point when you can agree on things. Because I think in one of our meetings, I heard somebody said that the husband doesn't buy her flowers and all those things, and even though she buys it for him, expecting him to do it, he doesn't do it. So now you can imagine if that woman is open to a man who easily buys her those things. Flower speaks of comfort, it speaks of care. Every woman should be contented with the possessions of her husband. Now let's go to the man. There are two major things I've figured out that tempts a man. It is pleasure and power. That is why natural men who see women as a symbol of pleasure are easily tempted by the women. I'm saying there are two P's that tempts a man easily. The desire for pleasure and the desire for power. So in other words, every man should watch out for the things that represent pleasure and the things that represent power. So that is why a natural man that sees a woman as a symbol of pleasure is easily tempted by a woman. That's why when we are saved, we don't have to see a woman as a symbol of pleasure. A woman is a human being, somebody you can interact with, understand her and work with her. Your wife is the one God has given to you for your fun, your enjoyment, and whatever you want to do. Don't see any other woman as a symbol of pleasure. And we can see that this is the instrument that the enemy uses to bring men down, because men love pleasure. Like I said, we love hanging out, we love drinking, men love all kinds of things. Even you see, the strip club was built for men. And mostly, I learned that the concept came out for married men, married men who love pleasure. So they always go there to hang out and watch the ladies and all that. So every man should watch out for that. The second P is power. Men love power. In other words, a man wants money for power. Anything that speaks about power can easily tempt a man. That is the thing. And I believe that that is why the enemy tried to tempt Jesus by taking him to show him the whole earth and then telling him that, if you bow to me, I will give you this. It's all about power, control. So I discovered that even when a man and a woman desire money, they desire money for different things. A man majorly desires money for power. He wants to have control. He wants to be able to buy anything he wants or take anything he wants. A woman desires money, majorly for comfort. She wants to get things to beautify herself. She wants to get that which gives her comfort. So if you look at these temptations, you understand that the enemy can walk through them to tempt a man differently and to tempt a woman differently. Now, for a man to be able to overcome these main temptations easily, he has to only delight in what God offers him through his wife. Only what God offers him through his wife. I want to be very honest today. You see, if you look at the Bible in the beginning, I've come to understand that the love a woman has for a man, she is ready to do anything for him. When a woman truly loves a man, see, they don't mind doing whatever, even if that thing is not good. They can do it to make the man happy. And that is why if you check the Bible, you see where Jezebel killed Naboth for Ahab. And you see where when Eve ate that fruit, she brought it to Adam. So what I came to discover is that every man should also check what the wife offers to them. Because in a natural way, I'm telling you, if a man is building a house and he is short of 2 bricks to complete the house, he may say, no, I can't take the wife can cross over and take the 2 bricks from the neighbor's house and say, just, is it not 2 bricks? Just use it, just complete it. It's just bricks. After all, he asked me for water yesterday, I gave it to him. This is nothing. So let's just complete the house. The way women are wired to help, they can help you anyhow. As long as they have helped you, they can help you. So every man should watch out to make sure that he delights in what God offers him through his wife. So you can still lead your wife in what should be done and what should not be done. So those are the ways that a man can overcome temptation. Whatever is not in your wife, don't delight in it. That's why the Bible says man will delight in the breast of his wife. A man will take delight in this. So temptations easily come when we delight in what we do not have, what is not there. And for the woman, it comes when she begins to feel discontented and she desires what the husband does not possess. It becomes a problem. So to have a marriage that is free of this kind of temptations, we should be able to be contented with what we have and delight in what we have. And also, if you feel that somebody is trying to hit on you, in your workplace, wherever you are, it's always good to share with your spouse. Another way the enemy thrives in temptation is in secrecy. If you keep things secret and you want to hide it from your spouse, the enemy can easily get you because he likes that. Then he can be working on your heart, in your mind, and one day he will take hold of you. So it's good to always share things. The way my colleague is talking to me, I feel something and all that. Don't keep it a secret because it can become a problem. So those are the things I quickly wanted to share today. We've talked about internal temptations and external temptations. Internal temptations are the happenings in the home, the careless words we speak to our spouses and the actions we do that can tempt them to react in a way that they should not react. So be careful what you say and what you do. Don't use words like, you are acting foolishly. Nobody accepts that. Immediately you say you are acting foolish, your spouse will say you are calling me foolish. You say, no, I was trying to describe the way you are acting. There is nothing like that. So you in fact, sometimes we have to use dictionary in our house to explain things. Nothing like that. The person will say, no, so you have to use very sophisticated words, like this thing is not up to standard. You want to say that this thing is like a foolish thing, but you don't use the word. You just say this thing is not up to standard. Can you make it a bit better? you know, to avoid issues. So please, this is very important. A lot of marriages have separated because they allowed, themselves to tempt each other with what they say and what they do. Don't become a stumbling block in your marriage. And also, when you fight the internal one, also fight the external one. Woman, be contented with what your husband possesses. Man, delight in only what God offers you through your wife. So that is a summary of what I'm sharing today. I don't know if anybody has a comment or a question to ask as we move forward today.
I would like to comment on the last part of what you've shared,
Mm,
where you said when you are being tempted, be open to share with your spouse. I think that is very important because some people fell into temptation and could not come out of it, and they get lost in the midst
mm,
of it.
mm,
Like I heard a story of a pastor who was tempted and he fell into adultery, and the woman came intentionally for that purpose, and after that she started demanding things from him, and he sold a lot of what he had until he had nothing more to sell and could not tell his wife. I mean, that also shows the kind of relationship they had. I mean, they were not open to each other. Sure, maybe he wasn't sure she could forgive him, but until he was about to sell the only thing left, which was the keyboard. And while he was negotiating to get someone for the keyboard, the Holy Spirit, I don't know, spoke to him and he said, like a prodigal son, I'll go to my wife. Whatever she wants to do, she can do. And that was the end of that temptation, having sell everything that he could sell. And so it's very important that we confide in our spouse and be honest and open to each other, because God can use our spouse to save us from those temptations. And I mean, even as women too, a while ago, I received a message from someone that was, I couldn't believe. The message was like, have you ever experienced cunnilingus before? I mean, it's an oral sex, a person offering. Imagine a woman who has been hearing about things like that and never experienced it from her husband, or she is curious to know what it is. The person can be tempted. So little things like that, there is tendency to want to keep it from your spouse so that you don't get judged or criticized or even reprimand, or so you just want to put it under the bed. But really, some of those things don't go away, because once the seed is sown, you start meditating on those things. You can't get over it. You start going to Google to know more. If your friends talk about it, it lights up your world. You just want to hear more. So once you find yourself in this space where you cannot help yourself, please, I think it's very important that we go to our spouse for comfort and really seek out these things. And there is no need to be shy. If there is something you want to explore, instead of thinking of where else to get it, I mean, it's safer to get it at home. So confide in your spouse, and I mean, God can save you through through your partner,
mm,
than going to hell with
mm.
5 minutes of pleasure that will not last.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. I see Elroy's hand here. Elroy?
Ah, yes. Okay, just a slight comment on that, from my side.
Mm,
Basically, what I wanted to say was it's also very important how the spouse. Let's say, for an example, I'm the one that's coming to my wife, and I'm saying to my wife, I'm being tempted. There's someone at work that really likes me, and she's doing things that I like, and this and that. And that. It's very important how your spouse takes the message.
Certainly.
Because what could happen is that, like for an example, Glynis could tell me, "What are you doing?" Now that's wrong. That's the wrong approach.
mm,
If I come to you and I tell you something, um, it should immediately tell you that I'm uncomfortable with this. Firstly, secondly, I'm not doing anything. It's just a matter of me coming to you and saying, "Listen, this is what's happening." So I think it's very important how the receiver, yeah, I'll call it that. The receiver takes it.
mm,
It's very important how they come, how they respond to it, because that can determine the next time something goes wrong. Because if something goes wrong now and you respond negatively, the next time something goes wrong, your spouse will not want to tell you, because they don't want to go through that process again.
Okay, no, that's a good comment. So we should learn to be understanding and trust our spouse. I think that the main thing comes with trust, because if you really believe in your spouse and trust your spouse, there are some thoughts that will not even cross your mind. You see, if you don't believe or trust your spouse, you come to a point where you question things. It's like, are you trying to, do this, or is this in your mind, and those kind of things. And one of the things that I want to share is, please, let's learn to take our spouses for their words. Let's learn to believe what our spouses say, because this can bring a big issue in a relationship. If your spouse says that this is what happened, believe it, except you have a proof that doesn't line up with that. But as long as you don't have a proof, believe it, because the truth is that most times if you doubt what your spouse says, it could mean that you don't tell the truth yourself. So you're trying to find out if this person is really telling the truth. And like you're saying, if you doubt your spouse once, the person may not want to open up again. So it is very good that we confide in each other, we trust each other, and we are open to sharing things with each other. Even if you made a mistake, it is good to share. And let's just say, for the purpose of this forum, that we should learn not to judge, our spouses, even when they made a mistake. Yes, there is a mistake on ground. You should be open to, forgive and accept the person. And another thing I want to say, very important, is let's learn to forgive and forget. In other words, I find out that if a person had cheated before, and maybe the spouse forgave him or her, if that person has anything that looks like a cheating case, anything that looks like a cheating case, even if he is not wrong, he is already sentenced, because you have a record of cheating. It's like a criminal record that is not wiped out. So I'm just begging you, please, let's wipe out.
And the worst part, they will remember the date, the time, the weather, what you were wearing, what earring you had on, everything will come out.
So please, let's not be like the government that keep criminal record for people, and they say you are. They say, are you a first offender or a second a second offender? It's a third offender. No, it's an offender. Please, I'm just saying, these are the things that can limit love in a relationship. And it can also expose the person to more temptations. I used to say to people, if you come to a point where nobody believes you anymore, it's like you have the freedom to do anything. Because after all, if you don't do it, they will still say you did it. So now, what do you mean?
Just do it.
So that I'm telling you, it can make people angry, So let's learn to trust each other and help each other. And on top of that, please, let's pray for each other. Pray for your spouse, especially if your spouse is walking where you know that there could be temptations or something. Just let's pray for each other every day and pray that God will help us to be delivered from temptation. And also, please, if you are doing work or working in a place that you know that there is pressure of temptation on you, I'm telling you, I believe that God can give you another working place. If you have a pressure of temptation, sometimes we are tempted and we need to set our priorities right. You can choose. I've seen situations where a woman chooses to lose her job to keep her marriage, and a man chooses to, lose a client to keep his marriage. So our marriage should be a big priority in our lives. The fear of God, our marriage, we should enable to keep that with all costs. So I just pray that God will help us to survive and overcome all kinds of temptations in marriage.
You may visit our website for details of our events and register at www.livingasoneevents.com. You can also get our books on relationships. We also do counseling for couples and singles who want to make the right decisions regarding their relationships. For more info, please contact us on 078 255 4517 or email us at livingasoneevents@gmail.com. God bless you.